I bring you the greetings of the Brotherhood at Darjeeling. They who know the meaning of the sacred will of God, not as a yoke or a burden to fit the back, but as a mantle to wear in honor and dignity. Beloved ones, as I review mentally a portion of my own travels back into the far distant reaches of time, and I consider how some of you also have been with me from theosophical days and through many various movements, I think of it somewhat as a trek across the desert upon some of the more unhappy specimens of animals, such as the camels. Many of you have rode somewhat as an individual upon the hump of a camel. And although the journey may have been slightly uncomfortable at times to your physical world, your love and devotion has not deterred you from enduring the discomforts of that journey, that you might at journey's end find an oasis of peace and harmony where the will of God is made known. Therefore I greet you today with all the magnificent, sparkling love of the diamond heart. That love, beloved ones, is anchored within your own world. You are delighted, you tell me, to hear me speak to you. I am likewise delighted to do so. Do you think for one moment that the pleasure is all yours? I tell you I share in that pleasure, for many of you have spoken to me not only during the daytime, but in the night hours you have kept a vigil, and you have beheld with me the discordant and dissonant conditions of the planet, and you have called to Almighty God to alter and change those conditions. Such devotion I compare to the sacred Vestal Virgins of the ancient temples on Atlantis, who tended the sacred fire with even an excessive care or a greater care than some of you beloved custodians of houseplants tend your own little gardens. Beloved ones, I shall speak only a few more words to you, but I want you to know that I am here, standing by the side of beloved Saint Germain, as he speaks to you today, not in his royal robes, but he stands here beside me on the platform, and he is wearing a simple garment of dazzling white light, draped fully from the shoulders unto his ankles. There is a simple band of gold around the edge, and very little ornamentation, other than the light of his heart and the light of his centers, which radiate their love and light out eternally to all mankind in the name of freedom. Blessed ones, continue on in this journey. Be not weary in doing the will of God. It is the only possible path that leads to your freedom. I who love you beyond the compare of mortal mind, thank you for your presence here, and I bless you with the will of the Brotherhood at Darjeeling.
unto you, my blessed ones. I come to you this night in the radiance of swaddling garments of night. I, Jesus, wherever there are even a few gathered together in my name, I am, and indeed in the midst of them. Walls do not impede my progress. Even hearts of stone do not impede my progress, for I am able by the power of the sacred fire and by the power of divine love to move through all places. All power in heaven and all power upon earth is given unto me. And this power, blessed ones, is the perfection of your own holy Christ self. It is given unto you if you will accept it, the scepter of divine dominion, to take command of your own world and affairs, and see to it that no human being intrudes therein in contradiction to the power of your own God presence and the perfection thereof. The light of God never fails. The light of God never failed me in all of my embodiments previous to my ascension. And in that last and final outpouring of radiance from on high did not fail me all the way through the garden to the hill of Golgotha and to Bethany's hill from whence I arose, never more to wear a garment of physical form, but evermore to be clothed only with the immortal garments of light and light's perfection. Divine love is a tangible reality. It comes from the heart of each one's own God self, and there are none so poor who cannot reach out the arms of life from their own being and receive freely of the water of life. Freely ye therefore have received of God's sustenance, freely give. I have broken bread with you and with some of you previous to this embodiment. And blessed ones, I am present here with you now to break bread with you and to sup with you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. In breaking bread with you, I pass the sacred Eucharist to each one of you. And as you take this host within you, within your own heart, and as you drink of the cup of life deeply, you will find a charge coming into your world, a spiritual charge from on high, which will enable you to give peace to those who are disturbed, which will enable you to give healing to those who are afflicted, and will bestow upon you some of the virtues which were brought into manifestation in my life among the children of Judea, and now to the world at large. Blessed ones, the words "in my Father's house are many mansions" are so true. And truly, I have prepared a place where not only the smaller bands, such as these which are gathered together here, may assemble, but where all the people upon earth may assemble in the great spiritual halls of light and light's perfection. Blessed ones, unfortunately among mankind, there are those who are not happy at the idea of the whole world entering into light and light's perfection. There still is in mankind's outer consciousness an idea of smallness, an idea of compartmentation, an idea of a king or ruler and a slave. This they must forsake, and mankind must learn to accept the idea of a spiritual kingdom wherein every man and woman is crowned a king and queen of spiritual light and light's radiance, where all can wear upon their head the God liberty of the seven mighty Elohim, where all can wear the radiance of heaven, even as outpictured upon that statue of the Blessed Goddess of Liberty in New York Harbor, that all men may be endowed with the same power from on high to find their victory and their freedom in the light. This is the plan of the Father. It is not the Father's good pleasure that any should perish, that any should go hungry, that any should be in despair, but rather that all should enter into the fullness of the enfolding garments of light, which we, the sons of heaven, wear. Peace be unto you this night. Where I am, there ye may well be also. And where I am, ye shall be, as ye enter in to the consciousness of light. Oh, I am so well aware of all the disturbances of human consciousness. Occasionally, some individual penetrates into our octave, and then, as through a great tunnel of light, I pour my energy and appear to that one in actual form and radiance. Sometimes this occurs in a dream, and then again in a waking vision. These experiences are few among mankind. They shall be more and more frequent as individuals aspire to have these experiences of drawing closer into our octave and cultivate our friendship, even as they cultivate the friendship of one another. Oh, blessed ones, if someone with great wealth were to move into a neighborhood upon earth, individuals seek out their social contacts that they may be identified with that one and find some passing glamour in the occasion. But, blessed ones, you have the privilege of being associated with children of light, with ascended masters, with angelic beings, with cosmic radiance, with the perfection of your own presence. Why then seek for the living among the dead? Seek rather for the living among the living, for I am a living being. I am not, as the angel said, among the dead. He said unto them, why seek ye the living among the dead? And it is true. I ask you to meditate upon this and try to realize the significance of it. For mankind upon earth today are so well aware of their life. They say to one another, I am alive. And they consider that they have life. But, blessed ones, I tell you of a truth, in the mundane and human state of consciousness, there is only a transitory and passing set of experiences. But in the experience of your ascension, your resurrection, your being raised into the state of an ascended being, there is an eternal experience which can never pass away. And we have the treasures of heaven. The world does not have the treasures of heaven. They have only a small portion of them, and they do not possess the power to retain them but for a few years, and then they relinquish them. Even identity is gone, and they return embodiment after embodiment. For example, blessed ones, have you ever stopped to ponder at the large number of individuals who sit in the bleachers at your ball games, who many years ago sat amidst the crowds in the Colosseums at Rome when the Christians were being martyred? Blessed ones, I tell you that many of those present at the great prize fights in the various cities of this great land are those who desire violence because they were accustomed to it in the past. The tastes of mankind are cultivated in one embodiment, and come to some degree of fruition into another. Blessed ones, there is within most people a hidden series of propensities and desires. They often do not know from whence they come. They were of their own creation, and therefore as they have sown, so must they reap. But the blessed power of the violet fire, the attunement with our octave, the entering into the Christ consciousness, this brings to mankind a freedom and a way of escape from those avenues which in themselves do a disservice to life, and bring man to a state of spiritual exaltation and elevation, where fellowship with the ascended masters and cosmic beings is not only a possibility, but is an ever-present reality. I am here. I am here this night in full living power and radiance. If you could see me, I assure you that you would no longer ever doubt any of the powers of heaven, but you would know. And yet I feel and sense a great wave of sincerity from this small group this evening. I sense a wave of sincerity and a realization that these words are mine, and the realization that you know that my presence is here, and my love is enfolding you always. Blessed ones, to be a Christ is a high and holy calling, and because all men are called to it, does not make it of any lesser value to you who have been appraised of it this night and in the past. And you shall be again, for of what else shall we speak except the treasures of heaven? Shall we speak of the passing ephemeral pleasures of earth? Shall we speak of those things which come to naught? I think that we shall talk of the true King Solomon and the true temple of light. I think we shall talk of the building of the Lord's temple. I think we shall talk of the squaring of the circle. I think we shall talk of the power of God that comes from the four corners of the universe. I think that we shall speak of the life of perfection. I am the light, I am the way, and I am the truth. All is hidden in being, and all is revealed in being. And in being of Christ, you shall find the answer. This is the meaning, blessed ones, is the being yourselves. I am a being of light. I am a being of light. I am a being of perfection. I am a being of truth. When you can say that, as I have spoken, with the same intensity, with the same ring of truth, because you have attained it, then I am certain that you will need no other teacher, for you will have entered into the light itself. And yet, in that light, you shall bow with humility to my trail. You shall bow with humility to the great divine director, to Alpha and Omega, and to all those spiritual beings with joy. And they shall hold your hands in theirs and clasp you close to their heart, for you will then be brethren of the sacred fire. Not for a moment, not for an hour, but for all eternity. Be sealed with my blessing. I thank you, and I bid you good night.
I am come. Behold, my children, the love of your cosmic Mother Mary. How often in framing my name do you invoke my attention and draw me into your world? I am one whose children are manifold, and I would that each of my children would feel toward me as though I were their mother alone. Not that they would be unwilling to share my love with others of God's family, but I want you to feel that that love is so personal that it is almost as though but you and I existed alone. This will help to establish such a pathway of light between our hearts as we rely upon that great flowing love of God from one another, to reach out and embrace one another and hold us very close until the immaculate concept which I hold in my sacred heart has become so much a part of your life that it is even closer than your skin, which mankind values so highly. Beloved ones, around the sacred heart of your being, there is coalesced the physical appearance body, which mankind, day after day, adorn with precious jewels, wash and bathe properly, and revere and honor, and call it themselves. It is not this body which shall inherit the Father's kingdom, but it is that soul which resides within and ascends into the fullness of the presence that shall thereby, in returning to its source, inherit the kingdom. Therefore, while it is ever so needful for you to put some measure of attention upon the physical octave of life, it is so very important that you put a great deal of your attention, when you can, whenever you can, upon the spiritual side of life, that it may not be deprived of growth, that it may not be deprived of energy, that it may not be deprived of the necessary love, that it too may expand just as you feed your mortal forms. It is rather a pity to see a robust body and a wasted soul, to see a form filled with beauty in all of its outer appearances, and then see a shriveled shroud within. Knowing the law as we do, and knowing that unless there is a transmutation and a setting aside by the law, that this shriveled individuality, this expression that is within, will sooner or later manifest as inharmony or disease in that life stream. We would, be so happy, so very delighted to transmute that condition and never permit it to enter in to the world of that one. There is not any child on this earth that we would not be happy to take by the hand and lead them heavenward. We do not see dirty children or clean ones. We only see children of the one Father. If they come with unscrubbed hands or faces to us, it is still possible for us to love them. For we know that in that immaculate heart of God, there never was and never could be anything but absolute God perfection intended for every life stream. And it is upon this intention that we place our faith, our love, our attention, because it is that we would invoke in every life stream. We are not concerned with amplifying the difficulties of mankind. We are not concerned with that which would rob from men their happiness. But we are concerned with that which would bring men their happiness. You know, beloved ones, the reason I mention this is that ever so often individuals seem to feel that in approaching the throne of grace or coming to petition one of us, that for each granting of a petition we expect in return some sacrifice on the part of that individual. So often it is as though a child would bargain with its mother or father and say, if you will do this or that for me, I will do this or that for you. Beloved ones, you never need to come to bargain with me or bargain with the ascended host. Our love cannot be purchased. It is freely given. Freely receive our love. Our love is priceless because money cannot purchase it. Our love is transcendent because it is not qualified or conditioned by the human imagination or by some human appearance. I do not look upon one who comes to me and try to examine the fabric of that one's etheric body to determine whether or not I shall answer that request. I am the cosmic mother of life. It is my child who comes, and to my child I naturally respond in the same manner that I responded to my beloved one as he hung upon Calvary. It is absolutely true that as I turn my back upon the scene on Calvary's hill, I turn my back upon being just the mother of beloved Jesus. I became the cosmic mother of all mankind, just as beloved Jesus became the universal brother of all mankind. It is somewhat difficult, bound round about, as mankind are, by doctrines, by theories, by a host of words, recorded words, if you will, recorded not by electronic tape recorders, nor shorthand reporters, but recorded in the memory of a few fishermen and individuals who were surrounding beloved Jesus, who many years later set down, as best they recall, various anecdotes and sayings from his life. Beloved ones, do you not see the difference in our speaking to you directly today? Remember the words of beloved Jesus, how he said, "Greater things shall ye do because I go to my Father." Is this not a greater thing that I can come to you today and gather my arms around you, not just around your physical forms, but around all of you, and all of mankind simultaneously, as it were. And I can hold a planet to my heart. If I can hold a planet to my heart, is that not even greater than holding that blessed and beloved Jesus to my heart as Mary in Bethlehem? Today, instead of just one, I reach out my love to a world in travail and pain, a world of confusion, a world of political intrigue and strange diplomatic sequences. I reach into that world and I bring a true message of sanity, a true message of peace, a true message of light, a true saying of divine order. That which I speak is no mere commercial venture. I do not phrase my statements for the politics of the masses or to please some ecclesiastical individual, but I please the God who made me and framed me, bringing the words that I feel are needed to heal, bringing the radiation and the vibration that is needed to this planet. If individuals are so foolish in their mind and imaginings to fancy that because I have taken my ascension and others of the ascended host have done so likewise, that we no longer possess the facilities to communicate with this earth, then let them think again. And if they persist in thinking this, that we cannot communicate with you, then let them be bereft of our guidance until such a time as their heart's response shall be recognized by them. For I cannot but think that seeing that every human heart that now is presently embodied upon this planet was fashioned through my sacred hands, I cannot help but think that that heart's energy would naturally and spontaneously respond to my call. Beloved ones, show me a baby, even in this day and age. I do not care whether that child have white skin or of a different hue. That child's cry is interpreted by every mother in every tongue with the same heart's response. And the answer of that mother as she ministered to that child is the same the world around. Truly, motherhood is a manifestation of the cosmic gestation, of the holding of an immaculate concept. And a mother is intended to be a mother of an immaculate child. That holy thing which is born of her is intended to be a manifestation of God as much as I am and as much as beloved Jesus is. This is something the mankind of this world must understand. They must know that there is no such thing as a unique individual. Although true that there are avatars, true that there are great cosmic beings who occasionally do descend by cosmic law to this earth, as far as the mankind of this earth are concerned, those life streams which embody day after day, hour after hour, century after century here, among them, one is not unique or set aside from another. As far as opportunity goes, they are all or were all given the same opportunity by God. Through responses, through devotion, and through the life which they have led, and through their God determination to externalize good, or be carried by the tide of life. They have fashioned a different individuality for themselves, and it is true that they manifest differently. But within themselves, within that great spark of life within them, that sacred fire which is there, that fire which came from God, there is no difference. They are all, as it were, tiny sparks of the sacred fire, and they possess the capacity of expanding the fiery God nature of their being until they stand in such radiance as a planetary logos, or as the ruler of a solar system, or a galaxy, universes within universes, in the great and mighty cosmos. There is no limitation except that limitation which mankind allow or admit to their world. It is true, there is an element of time. There must be a period of gestation. There must be a period in which the necessary elements, even of a spiritual order, are drawn together and assembled. And when the fullness of the time is come, God will bring forth His firstborn, His immaculate pattern, His good, and it shall be made manifest. As your cosmic mother, I am only speaking to you of the simple facts of life. I do not think to dwell upon some great cosmic law at this moment which is beyond the understanding of many of the children of earth. But on this Mother's Day this year, I speak to the masses of mankind which yearn to breathe free. I speak to you as I look at this moment at the face of the beloved Goddess of Liberty, who is with me. And somehow I am reminded of the magnificent words of Emma Lazarus, which she inscribed, or caused to be inscribed, within the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I call to all the children of this evolution, unascended, whether you wish to call me Kali, Mary, the Cosmic Mother, the universal feminine principle, or just simply raise your hands to me in supplication. It matters not. You are my children. I yearn only to present you to God immaculately, so that with me and with others of my illustrious children, you may take your rightful place in that kingdom, that your nations may be reflections of the great encoded laws of God, that your homes may be reflections of that divine order, that your personal lives may be reflections. kind of earth, to await the perfection of the sacred spheres made manifest in your octave would require the very patience of an angel, it is true. God has all that patience, and as we behold in our octave the mighty radiance of his light pouring out in somewhat the same manner as the giant searchlights sweep the sky of your great cities, we see in their glow and their afterglow a language that is so splendid and so deep as to hold in our memory a very precious place. I tell you, have you ever thought about a memory that is eternal? Beloved ones, let me whisper in your ear a secret of eternal memory. So many of you have done secretarial work, or you have filed various documents in these great metal cases you have in your offices. Today, some of you may be learning to file in a new method by an electronic memory. You may use the new methods the mankind of earth have developed, and you may use that which they call microfilm to photograph your memory. But I am speaking to you tonight of an eternal memory with an unlimited capacity. This thought in itself is somewhat tremendous. You who are so used to dealing with a space 4 by 4 or 3 by 3 by 3, let me say to you to think of a memory which is recorded from the earliest beginning and knows no end. Then you are thinking of the memory of an angel. We are unlimited. And if we can remember aeons ago one light ray of vibration from the heart of God, because that light ray held such fascination for us, because of its own radiance, because of its own love, because of its own nature and its own magnificence, then do you not think that that magnificence was very great, along with the God perception which we had to see it? Do you not see then, O mankind of earth, the great need you have for expanding your own finite capacities into their infinite capacities? How long will the mankind deal with form and substance and still not learn how to handle that substance and its proper use? Beloved ones, it is up to you. The great law can provide fields of golden grain. The great law can provide orchards filled with golden apples. It can provide an abundance of golden, mellow, sweet corn for you to sustain your body. It can provide lovely, snowy balls of cotton blowing in the breezes in the fields, that you may weave garments and dye them with the juices of berries and the various growing things of earth. But it is up to you to learn how to economically devise a means and a medium whereby the harmony of heaven is interpreted through your laws and your commerce. I ask you in the name of Almighty God, if we were to begin to parcel out and commercialize on the air, or to commercialize upon the water, or to commercialize upon the light rays from the stars, or beloved Helios and Vesta were to begin to charge the mankind of earth for the radiant energy of the sun, how long do you think you would be able to pay that bill? How long do you think the gold that you have in your purses would be able to sustain itself if you did not replace it by that source from whence it came? Oh, in all the wisdom of mankind, I, beloved listening angel, who am able to see so much of that which goes on here, and am likewise able to see our radiant spheres and dwell most of the time in them, oh, I say to you, children of this earth, if you could only spend a few minutes completely absent from your physical forms and still be conscious, as some have done, in our realm, it would naturally make so much difference. It is true that often individuals vouchsafe such a privilege do upon return to their physical form have a feeling that it was only a dream. And often, as they become enmeshed once again in the affairs of the commercial and business worlds and the daily round of pain and pleasure, it seems that that which has been was only a dream. And so it is of their own great magnificent divinity. But we who know, who see the law before us, we who are the law in operation, we who see the golden strands of heaven's harp as it actually is strung through the solar system and through the universe, we who beheld the angelic choruses as they, like wild troubadours of the cosmos, passed through space singing infinite anthems and paeans of praise to Almighty God, we do not think it strange that these anthems should bring pleasure to each angel. We do not think it strange that hour upon hour should be spent in adoration to that source. For I tell you, there is no other source, there is no other glory than the glory of the I Am Presence, the glory of God, who is the mighty I Am Presence. That is the glory of eternity, the glory of all that is. I do not care whether the individual be a yogi in the Himalayan mountains, or whether that individual upon this planet be one who has practiced deep meditation and is able to reach into our octave. All would, if they tell the truth, tell the same story. They would tell the story of that presence in the universe of divinity, that source, that fountainhead of all life. And it is as natural to us as breathing, or for a flower to unfold its pattern, that we should praise that divinity. How little the mankind of earth understand the meaning of worship and devotion. How little they know about the great law. So many feel as they sit in their churches and listen to the great singing of hymns and the praises as they peal forth, that they can scarce wait until they are without those four walls and free once again from the domination of worship, which plays a little part in their life because it comes not from the heart. Beloved Jesus, as he spoke his precepts to the multitudes upon the hillsides of Judea, said so well and so wisely, "This generation draweth nigh unto me with their lips, but their hearts is far from me." And oh, I say to you today, 2,000 years from the day of his ministry, these words are so true for the masses of mankind, enmeshed in spinning and weaving and wearing and adorning the outer with so much beauty, and that is well. But oh, how they do neglect the adorning of the inner man. How they place the accent in the wrong place. The punctuation, the underlining, the underscoring, the undergirding is all placed where it belongs not. And where it belongs, there is an emptiness. And in their loneliness, they search out some palaces of pleasure, where the temporal senses in gilded moments are able to hear a faint echo of that cravings of the soul and the desire to know the harmony of inner spheres. We who listen at the bedsides of pain and hear the petitions as they go up to Almighty God, we who are able to reach out our hands and fondle that golden hair of a tiny child as it lays nestled in its crib, we who are able to reach out arms of love to the aged and infirm as they extend hearts of hope to heaven, we are able to see. But as we gaze upon mankind, we see no response. It is like looking upon marble figures and saying, "We have spoken to you, and you have not heard. Why do you not reply unto us?" And there is no answer. God be thanked, there are few hearts, and increasingly more hearts, who are coming to an awareness of the facts that all is not material. All is not that which it seems to be. And they realize that in the transient passing gust of wind, as it were, of that which is their life. For the Spirit is much like the wind. His beloved Jesus said, "It cometh as if from nowhere, and goeth as if to nowhere." The difference is, to those who know, it cometh from the hand of the beloved Lord, the CHOHAN, and it goeth back to his loving heart. And we who listen, and we who wait for the perfection of life, we stand here not helpless, it is true, but hopeful. And that is why I speak to you tonight, that my words, as they are printed and bound and sent out into the world of form, may in some way inspire men to know that there are yet hearts of fire, hearts celestial, hearts above the terrestrial world, who, loving earth with a love that mankind cannot know until they are free from the shroud which they wear as an outer garment, can hear the voice of an angel, can understand a little about the love of an angel, if they will open their hearts. And if you care to ask this question, what is an angel? Then may I say to you that I am an angel. An angel is one of the ministering spirits of the Father, one of the spirit sparks of the creation, who is drawn forth and externalized the magnificence of our kingdom of ministration. We have chosen not so much to serve in physical form, but to serve in the realm of the invisible to mankind, that we might hold the focus of light and be unmoved by the vain desires of earth, but act as a protector of the mankind and their varied evolutions, until you may join hands with us. And as the loom of life pushes through the threads of life, from your side of the veil, it will part that veil and come into the hands of an angel, who will return the shuttle back again to weave the strands between heaven and earth, until the tapestry of life, by cooperative loving, shall show mankind how to do a weaving which is eternal and cannot be destroyed. Mankind today build such temporal garments. They weave such temporal garments. They build such temporal homes. For in a few hundred years, most of them, except for the castles and the homes of masonry, have decayed and rotted away, requiring immense repair. And in our realms, all is composed of light, which needs no repair. For just as you may turn on a beam of light and flood a room with light, so at our command, our towers of crystal and spiritual marble blaze forth to the glory of God. And we dwell in that light. And that light comes from the source, even as your material objects and bodies come from the source. But ours will never decay. Yours are in the atomic realm of changing substance. Ours are in the changeless realm of the eternal. That which you build can be builded here as well as there. Someday, as you enter into our octave, in your own ascension, you will find that all of the goodness, all of the righteousness, and the right use you have made of eternal substance is your own. Stored now in your causal body, it shall remain with you forever. And you will expand that light. And you will glow with a great radiance like Helios and Vesta. And we may meet and smile at one another. And our hearts will know one another. I am your cosmic mother, that unfolding spirit of love that sweeps across the shores of America from New York unto San Francisco, that reaches to the golden gate, and not only to the golden gate of this landed area, but reaches to the golden gates of paradise. And it is there that I would direct the footsteps of every child of earth. It is to that place, that paradise of God, that I would direct every man and woman. I would lead them in the divine dignity of their holy Christ self by the very hand and heart, until they were able to see that God never intended anything upon this blessed planet except absolute freedom to bring forth righteousness, perfection, and beauty. I tell you, the magnificence of the Father's creation is so far removed from the consciousness of the average individual that it often becomes increasingly difficult for those of the ascended host to pierce the veil of Maya and to reach into the hearts of those that we so long to direct. I ask you, beloved ones who love light, I ask you, beloved ones who love the ascended Master Jesus, who is truly not only Son of Mary, but my Son also. I ask you, each one who truly love Jesus, who love God, who love even Mohammed, who love Zarathustra, who love Enoch and Abraham and all the patriarchs of all time and all the ascended masters, by whatsoever name you may know them, I ask all of you to unite your heart's love in my own cosmic flame of liberty, and I ask you to take that cosmic love that you have and offer it to the people of America as a spirit of compassion which will turn yourselves away from the discord of the outer mind and the confusion that is evoked by humanity's self-seeking and selfishness. I ask you to turn toward your own God-immortal perfection and keep your attention riveted thereon until every vestige of age, every vestige of hatred, every vestige of unforgiveness, every vestige of unrighteousness, every vestige and trace of discord and the appearance of disease is removed from your four lower bodies, and you stand not only as electronic light substance, but as immortal electronic ascended master light substance. You see, beloved ones, your physical forms contain within it one atom at least, which is a permanent atom, and therefore that is an imperishable ascended master light substance. And there is in the center of every one of your cells a great sphere of light itself, which in itself cannot be requalified by the human. You see, the center in itself has a flame within it, which is the life of that individual atom, and that cannot be requalified. It is in the substance that is builded around that where the discord registers, and therefore in one sense I can say to you that you are already immortal beings, in the sense that if you remove the discord, you see, you would remain as immortal beings. The only difficulty now is that the qualification that has builded your physical forms has been qualified with so much discord that if we were to remove it, your physical form would not fit into a thimble, because there is even less than that of you which is actually qualified with God's substance. Beloved ones, do you see why it is so important that you will continue to build into your world the things that belong to God? Truly, if mankind could only realize this, I suppose this shall be a very startling remark to many people when I tell them that the qualifications of humanity are so great that their physical forms, many of which weigh 200 and 250 pounds and are 6 foot up to as much as 7 feet tall in many cases, would actually fit into a thimble. But I tell you that it is even less than that. Beloved ones, can you see why I am so anxious to have you qualified with ascended master light substance? Stop and consider for a moment the height of beloved Archangel Michael and many of the great ones, some of whom are 8 and 9 feet tall.
I tell you there is no discord there, and that 8 or 9 feet is all ascended master light substance and filled with the glory of God. Now is it not almost a great pity that individuals having the same dimensions in physical form as some of the great ascended beings shall actually have such small dimensions, in the sense that the bulk of their actual physical forms is misqualified with discord and shadow, until it in itself could not exist or permanently remain, and must therefore fall prey to some form of illness until that individual is returned to the earth from whence they came, because the discord in itself cannot continue to register on that form, and that particular form and those atoms cannot continue to register that discord, and therefore we return those things to the earth that they may go back to the sun for repolarization and a new body may issue forth. Beloved ones, if you stop to ponder and consider the magnificence of all of these factors, you will realize that it is vitally important that everyone pay attention, and I mean pay attention, to the light that comes from our octave. The mankind of earth may think they are finding happiness as they flit hither and thither throughout the earth in the search of happiness, but I tell you, when most of them stop at the end of the day, after all of the various pleasures that they have sought are counted up, and they begin to take scope of themselves and take stock of themselves to see what they have done, most of them find out that it is really somewhat of a squirrel cage existence. Now, beloved ones, it is easy to see that the Father did not intend it to be so. For, beloved, Jesus did teach and did speak of one particular great factor among many others to mankind, and he said, "The Father worketh hitherto, and I work." Therefore I say to you, beloved ones, if the Father works hitherto, and beloved Jesus worked, do you not think then that it is important that there is work for you to do? Now, I do not mean to convey the idea or the impression to you that this is going to be work. What I mean to convey to you is that it is a service whereby your life stream draws forth from God the energy and then qualifies it with the graciousness of our octave. And I am trying to give you a sense of the fact that in our octave there are constructive things to do, and that there are things to do that will produce such happiness for you as you cannot yet imagine. Now, beloved ones, as this is true, therefore I ask you to place your faith in my statement, because if you do not place your faith in the statement that I have made unto you and others of the ascended host have made unto you, you will never be able to draw forth the energy to make your ascension. For sometime, someplace, somewhere, you have to have faith that there is a higher way before you will be able to externalize that higher way. Do you see? Whatever form of penny or coin of the realm that you pay for, if you pay for that which is Caesar's, then you will have Caesar's. But if you pay in the coin of the realm of that which is God's, you will have God's. And in order to have the kingdom of God, you must understand that it is somewhat of a different coin of the realm than the earthly octaves of consciousness. You must understand that the mankind of earth have misappropriated, and therefore because of their misappropriations they have received discord and distress. Therefore, when you shall reverse the process and shall accept the powers of the sacred fire and the powers of our octave, a complete change is necessary in order to actually enjoy the wonders of our octave. Now, I realize that this may seem somewhat nebulous to you, and you might say to me, why do you not explain to us just what are the wonders of your octave? Beloved hearts, were I to explain these to the average individual, they would not possess the power of understanding them. And therefore I tell you, this is where your faith must come in. You must realize, through the power which I have released to you and charged into your world this night, that the power of the sacred fire is a vital, living, and true power, and that this is that which every ascended master has offered to God. They have offered themselves to God because they had faith and believed in the invisible power of God by which the worlds were framed. I am sure that those of you who have physical sight are able at night to gaze up into the heavens and see those great pinpoints of light. Now I want you to realize that those pinpoints of light which you call stars, and which are great focuses of light, appear to be very, very small to your physical eye. And yet you know, and your science has told you, that they are many, many times the size of this earth, and many of them are much greater than your sun. Some of them could contain as many as 100 of your sons. Therefore I say to you, if you realize the dimensions of those which appear so small, I ask you, how could your mortal mind conceive of those conditions until you were able to enter into a dimension where these things would appear conceivable to your mind? And that is exactly the situation in which you are faced when I try to tell you of the power and of the services that we rendered in our octave. And therefore, if you will take my hand as your cosmic mother and go one step of the way at a time, you will find that you have entered into an activity which will not be one from which you will want to turn back. For the peace and the power and the love and the comfort that you will have in holding our hand will in itself prove rewarding enough to you that you will know with that same confidence that a child has, that the light in itself is the light of God that never fails. Now in this room there is a child, and I have asked that that child be placed to sleep for a very specific reason, that I might perform a special service for her life stream. And this may seem unusual to you at first, but I am sure that you will realize that this service that I am performing is transcendent as she enters into an activity wherein she will receive some of the attributes from my own life stream which I am exchanging with her physical form and her mind and her consciousness at this time. I ask you to pray for her that she be surrounded at all times with the light of God, that she may be able to enter into a higher activity of the Cosmic Mother. For at one time, in a previous embodiment, she rendered a great service to this very state of Virginia and this very area and part of the country, rendered a very great service to those people as she worked with Captain John Smith and others in the early days of the American colony. Therefore, I ask you, beloved hearts of light, to realize that I do not specifically single out just one individual, but I single out all of you in this room, and I single out all mankind as my children. For I am not just a cosmic mother of one individual, but I am a cosmic mother who renders a supreme service without discrimination to any of life. But it is necessary, in order to receive my service, that life shall discriminate itself by selecting me, even as I have selected them. For if there be no reciprocity, and that individual does not turn their attention to me, if I turn my attention to them, how are we able to establish a connection whereby the energy from my world can flow, and that individual can enter into that liberty, which is the hope of every immigrant that comes to America's shores and sees the immortal statue of my own beloved self, beloved of God first, and then beloved of so many of you. As they behold my statue, those individuals, though they may be tempest-tossed and storm-tossed in spirit and in despair, it is truly a symbol of hope, a symbol of cosmic light, and I hope that you will realize that my service goes far beyond the activity and action of this earth itself, and therefore I stand before those gates of paradise as well as the gate to this new land, this new world, this brave land of America. And I hope that each one of you will realize in the Summit Lighthouse that this is merely an avenue whereby the mankind of earth may be raised to the summit of their own being, to the perfection of their own world, to the harmony of God, to the contact with the ascended masters, and that they will value this contact far above the mere personalities of the individuals with whom they may be associated. Not that they should lack love to one another, but that they will realize that they have a common magnet, and that magnet is not even my own physical self, my spiritual self, my being, but that magnet I hold in my hand. That is the torch of liberty, for greater by far than I am is liberty itself. I thank you, and good night. beloved heart friends of freedom, I greet you tonight in the full power and full gathered momentum of the good that is in your own causal bodies. Beloved Jesus has come with me this night and stands in ascended master light perfection, silently radiating unto you the benediction of his own heart's light. As you so well know, the outer world, particularly the world called Christendom, continually gives their attention to the beloved Jesus and recognize him as a world Savior. And truly his transcendent service to light shall never be forgotten upon this planet until it is redeemed by the ascended masters and lifted up into its rightful place in the solar system. And in that time, of course, the service of every ascended master and every cosmic being will be inscribed in its proper place upon this planet. And so, for the most practical purposes of all eternity, I can say to you that the services of beloved Jesus will never be forgotten. In fact, the services of every member of the ascended host will never be forgotten. For behold, I say to you, many of us who today have made our ascension are here by reason of those forerunners who before us did issue forth their fiat for our freedom, and who did render a service of love and light to this planet long before we ourselves even realized the meaning of the sacred fire, being enmeshed at that time with the balance of humanity in many ways and many entanglements from which we desired at a later date to free ourselves, and did free ourselves, and did attain our own victory thereby. O beloved hearts of light, I wonder if you know how very much we desire to draw you very close to our octave. I wonder if you know the great efficacy and power of the violet fire itself as it blazes forth in your midst wherever I am. You see, beloved hearts, it is one thing to have an intellectual comprehension of a given principle. It is one thing to intellectually understand the meaning of a certain purpose of the ascended host or a certain law of the universe, and it is another thing to be able to see it from our level, for our understanding is in the higher octaves, and we see an action of the violet fire, which by reason of the brain substance of your own brains and bodies you are not able to fully see or to realize as pertains to the freeing power of that violet fire. It is somewhat difficult for me even to convey to your minds the full meaning and import of that which I am now trying to convey to you. For behold, you do have a limited understanding, and I say this is true of all mankind before their ascension. For it is somewhat difficult for one to say to one who is blind, "Do you see?" For the blind one who was born blind and has never saw and has never had the power of sight has no other concept whatsoever of what a thing may appear to be except through the power of feeling and the imagination. Do you see? And therefore it is much the same when it comes to the matters of the ascension, except for those few individuals who have been specifically selected to have a vision of higher octaves of light. The average individual and the average student, and many, I might add, who are not quite so average as some of you, are not fully able yet to realize at inner levels just what the action of the violet fire really is like in its great full-blown magnificence. You see, the violet fire, as has been told you by the beloved Arcturus, is the memory of God's own beloved and blessed perfection. Now, if the violet fire of freedom's love, that is my love, is the memory of God's perfection, then you see that which I drew forth from inner levels was the memory of God's immortal, immaculate perfection itself, which I knew in the very beginning, long before I took my first embodiment and wore a veil of flesh such as you now presently wear. Therefore, beloved ones, this must of necessity mean that the violet fire is a return to the primal light of God, to the original intent of God, and therefore it brings us back to a remembrance of the words of beloved Hilarion, which he wrote as St. Paul, that eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither has entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those that love him, to them who are the called according to his purpose. This was spoken to you recently in a pearl by the beloved Hilarion, and I mention it this night by reason of bringing to your understanding once again the fact that there is a scriptural corroboration of the very statement which I am making to you. Not that we are always able to find so convenient a reference, for the mankind of earth, dear hearts, have many times said, "Is it written in the Bible?" And they little realize that the Bible of God is much vaster, beyond comprehension, than the covers of the particular book which they of the Christian world consider to be the Bible. For truly, of a truth, there are many, many truths which are not included in that blessed book. And therefore I say to you, those who will rely strictly upon the words that appear between those covers will find themselves very limited indeed as pertains to their spiritual development. It is true that mankind can derive inspiration and comfort and advancement through the great blessedness which came through those records, but to say that those records are the only word of God that has ever been spoken or brought forth would be a great travesty indeed, and a great imposition upon those of us who have for generations now given our life and our energy to the production of words of truth, gems of wisdom, pearls of wisdom, and many other forms of knowledge which we have disseminated through many avenues throughout the earth. Therefore I say to you, children of the light, to you it is given to know the mysteries of God in clarity and in absolute clearness, for you do not require a form of mysticism as so many of the mankind of earth have desired to have. You rather are individuals who desire to have things made clear for you so that you will understand exactly the meaning behind that which we speak. And therefore the Bible which you receive is the living word itself, which comes forth from the Spirit of God and is charged forth to you and into your worlds by us and every ascended master of the light. Beloved hearts, how greatly is the power of love! How great is the power of light! How great is the truth of God which cannot fail! If you only knew and could realize this great power, you would be free on an instant. Stop and think about that for a moment. If you could enter into the full realization of that power, you would be free immediately, because the very in-sweep of that magnificence, as it swept through your four lower bodies, would remove and erase for all eternity every blot, every condition which was not polarized, and completely restore it on the instant to the magnificence it knew with the Father before the world was. And therefore you would have immediately entered into a state where that liquid light itself would pour through your entire bodies and raise you into the glory of your own ascension. Do you see therefore how important the power of realization is? When I wrote the Shakespearean plays, I tried to give the outer mankind of man many blessings. I tried to put into those blessed plays a great deal of the tragic and comic conditions of life, so that mankind might understand a great deal of the conditions which they were in, that they might understand how that many times they were making a mockery of life, and they were not truly living up to the great and grand goal of the Father of life. You see, in those medieval times, it was somewhat difficult to reach the consciousness of mankind, for most of them in those days were not able to even read, and only the elect or select were able to read, and to these I was able to give the full benefit of my intellect, illumined as it was by the light of God, that they might be able to receive the full benefit thereby and pass it on to the present day. And to the present day, the light of the Shakespearean plays is truly a great and blessed light for the mankind of earth. Of course, everything has its place and everything is in place. And I do not for one moment wish to tell you that by the mere reading of the plays which I wrote as Shakespeare, you would find your freedom. But I think if you were to read the Shakespearean plays and then to use a great quantity of violet fire, the one would act as a lever to push you out of the world, and the other one would act as a magnet to pull you into our world. I hope that you can appreciate the full benefit of what I am saying to you at this particular time. Beloved ones of the light, the gentility of our realm is transcendent. The gentility of the angels is a beautiful thing to see. I would like to tell you this, that very few on this planet have ever seen the grace with which angels greet one another when they stand face to face. The very nod of their head is so graceful and so gracious in itself as to inspire you to an experience never to be forgotten for all eternity. I tell you truly, if you were to gaze just once upon an angelic greeting made between them, you would never again be able to greet a fellow human being upon this planet with a grace, with a condition less than that grace. What I mean by that, in a more fuller extent, I would like to elaborate upon that, is that while you might not try to imitate the exact angelic movements, the pattern that you would see in your own consciousness as you perceive the angelic movements would be so gracious that you would ever thereafter have a different feeling toward a meeting with any individual whatsoever, and therefore your manners would take on an entirely different thought and feeling process as you bowed to the God light in the heart of any individual that you might have occasion to meet. Now, gracious ones, this in itself may seem relatively unimportant, but it is not. For I tell you that in your life, the occasions when you shall meet a different individual are somewhat limited, for if you stop and think about it, you only have so many days each year in which you possibly could meet each one, and most lifetimes are limited to so many years, and therefore in the space of your adult life and the period from when you first come to the knowledge of the sacred fire until the time you shall either make your ascension or pass out into the realm of your freedom, I tell you is not too long. And therefore, seeing this is a relatively short period of time, you would recognize that each experience, when you meet an individual, is one to be contemplated as an opportunity where you can do something for that one, regardless how causal or how casual that meeting may seem to be in the outer. Now, beloved ones, this shows you that graciousness in itself is intended to be externalized by our representatives upon this planet. Beloved ones, in the past, we have worked through many diverse groups and through many individuals. We have not in any way qualified those individuals with anything less than the power of light. And that is why those individuals, although many times exercising their own free will to perform many conditions and to perform many acts which were contrary to our good will, were still representing us, because we ourselves continued to hold the immaculate concept for them even after they had forgotten how to hold an immaculate concept for one another or for themselves. Beloved ones, the whole secret of it all, you see, is in not only holding an immaculate concept for others, but in holding it for yourselves, and then just going forward into your victory and accepting the fact that you are the immaculate concept acting here, do you see? In other words, what is the I am presence? the I Am Presence is the Immaculate Concept, do you see? And you yourselves are the I Am Presence in action when you behave in a manner that the I Am Presence would behave if it itself were standing in your shoes. Now, beloved ones, the thought that the I Am Presence is in your shoes ought not to appear appalling to you. For after all, you do have a great deal of energy from the I Am Presence, and I think that even beloved MORYA would smile greatly if he were to consider the withdrawing of the energy of the I Am Presence from the atoms in your physical body. For I believe that you would really find out that you are made of dust if the Presence were to withdraw itself and its support from your physical form. And therefore, in a very real sense, you might also say that the I Am Presence does stand in your shoes. It is just that mankind have qualified it with dust and mud, whereas it should be qualified and ought to be qualified with light and glory. Now, beloved ones, the qualification of your life is a very sacred act. This is the meaning of true communion, when Jesus said, "This is the cup which I give unto you, and as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me." He referred strictly to the fact that the communion of saints is the recognition of the life of God, the communion of the life of God, which you are drinking into hourly, which is flowing through your physical form and through your consciousness and your world, and that as you drink this in remembrance of Him, you drink it in remembrance of the fact that He outpictured in His life all of the graciousness, all of the grace, all of the love, all of the power, and all of the glory of heaven, and this is also an opportunity which I think life has given to you. I do not for 1 minute presume to think that you are the only individuals upon this planet that have received that blessing. I do not for 1 minute presume to think that you are the only individuals who ever will receive that blessing, for I would like to point out that there is not any individual within the range of the hearing of my voice, or any individual within the range of my aura, which I believe is able to compass the earth, that is not able to outpicture the glory of their own presence if they would actually believe that and would actually try. Beloved ones of the light, I ask you to be patient with yourselves. Be patient with yourselves until you are able to outpicture this flame of heaven. Be patient with one another, and do not, above all, permit yourselves to lapse into a concept of less than perfection, for this is not an act of graciousness in itself. When one truly loves another, they cannot help but outpicture for that one the glory of that one's presence. To outpicture the glory of that one's memory body and the sordid memories that may be locked there is not an act of graciousness. For truly within the lives of all men upon this planet, in physical embodiment, there are many unpleasant memories and conditions which, if they were thought about, spoken about, and considered, could be revived and have energy fed into them, as we have so often told you. And all of this is the meaning of the ghosts that walk again. For those ghosts, as I spoke long ago in Shakespeare, when I said that the good that men does lives after them. Behold, the evil that men do lives after men in the sense that they raise the ghosts which long ago ought to have been buried and forgotten. And they continue to people the earth with these conditions, these spiritual forces with which they later have to wrestle. And they are certainly not the Spirit of the Most High God. Of course, I do not mean to confuse you or to have you think that these are some disembodied entities, but they have an effect upon mankind which is far worse than some disembodied entities. For the resurrection of the memory of imperfection from your own life stream is quite vitally linked to you, do you see? And when you raise your own imperfections up and then think about them and consider them day after day, rather than keeping your attunement up with the perfection of your presence, you are certainly not assisting yourself to your own ascension, nor, I might add, are you assisting the mankind of earth. And most of this is truly vain sympathy, which will not in itself ever win for anyone a moment of peace. Therefore, I plead with you, children of the light, to be wiser in this particular activity than has ever been the case in any activity in the past. Many of the religious and spiritual activities of the past failed because men continued to look at men and to perceive their flaws. In this activity, I ask not only you in the heart center, but I ask all those in the periphery, all those who at any time or any place in any age shall contact this work, to bear in mind that I, Saint Germain, have made this request, that you ought always to remember the perfection of one another and all life, and ought never at any time for any purpose whatsoever to think of the imperfectness of any individual. Now, I do not mean to be fanatical about this, or to imply that you ought not to attend various functions where individuals might be out picturing some discord. I realize, of course, that you live in the world and are not of it. After all, if we were to avoid discord, would we be contacting your world now? By avoiding discord, I specifically mean by accepting the power of that discord to act in your world and therefore disturb your world and create a condition which is going to set you back and will not move you forward. Now, some of you may know about how to play chess. The beloved messenger through whom I am speaking is not familiar in his mind with the game of chess. But I tell you, and I tell you truly, that life in itself is much like a game of chess, and many of the moves that are made are very frustrating. But if individuals would realize that there is one wise enough to know how to play the game in such a manner as to win victoriously with the least moves, they would then make the call to their presence, and the presence itself would set them free by showing them the right moves to make ahead of time so that they might never, never, never fail or make a mistake. And then they would not only hear the words, "I want the power that never fails and never, never, never makes a mistake," but they would also be that power in action that never, never, never fails and never makes a mistake. Beloved ones, I thank you for your energy. I thank you for your attention. I thank you for the love you have for the light. I thank you for your graciousness in serving the light. I thank you for the power of your life streams, the authority you have given me in your world. I thank you for your decrees this night of the violet fire and the great wall of light which you asked to call forth. And I want to tell you that that wall of light did actually circle this planet. And I want to tell you that the intensification of the violet fire around this earth tonight is much intensified because of the power of this little group. And for that reason I have asked beloved Jesus, who is not going to speak to you, to send you a blessing from his own heart.